Hi, my name's Harry. I work for JZ Microphones. This is my studio, Aston Studio. I wrote a blog post for JZ recently regarding mastering, and I wanted to just quickly breeze over a couple of the topics that were in that, namely compression for flavor. I didn't talk about EQ, so I'm going to talk about EQ in this very, very quickly as well. Clipping, and we briefly talk around maximizers and what they do. Essentially, I'll breeze over that in a different topic. But for now, I wanted to just give a bit more of an audio representation of what is going on with regards to the sound of it, rather than just reading it off a bit of paper. So without further ado, let's dive in. So this is the track. This is from a band called Maystones. They're based out of London. Really, really good guys. Really kind of Radioheady-ish sound on this track. He's very Arctic Monkeys sounding on his voice, bit Kasabian-y in there as well. So very British sounding band. Great guys to work with. Really, really good musicians. Solid on their takes. Makes my life a lot easier. Made this mix a much easier process as well, and I really enjoyed this one. It's an acoustic track, so there's some careful things that we have to do, and I'll get into that a little bit later with regarding to clipping. But yeah, this is the track. I'll go into this little drum part at the end so you can hear it when it kind of builds into the final climax of the song.
I always know it's not the truth I heard them say.
So it's a really, really good kind of movement around the kit. The reverb and everything is swelling. There's violins. There's no bass guitar. It's just a double bass and a cello, kind of just being very gently bowed. We took a lot of inspiration from Olafur Arnalds with regards to this track, and kind of placebo-y tone to his vocals, and with the guitar, again, it was a Radiohead kind of somber, really sad sounding song. So I wanted to get that energy in there, but obviously I don't want to make it too dark, not with regards to the sound of the song, but I mean as in the sonic quality of the song. So one of the main things that I did was I started working in mid-side, which is usually what I do, but I did it a little bit extra this time. So over here you can see the focus on the mid frequencies is kind of being pushed. So I've got the vocals very at the forefront. I've got the shimmer setting set to on this Clariphonic, which if you've never heard of House of Kush Audio, go check this out. This is an absolutely wonderful plugin, Parallel EQ. And on the other side, on the side image, I have the Silk curve engaged, and these are very, very wide Q high shelves, and each one kind of starts a little bit further back. So Silk is right at the very top end of the spectrum. Shimmer's a little bit further back. Presence is a little bit is furthest back, I think, and then Sheen is the second furthest back. So I'm going to bypass this, then engage it, and you can hear how the track just kind of falls on its face a little bit and falls very flat without this engaged. So this is before.
I always know it's not the truth I heard them say.
So you can hear that it just lifts it a little bit more at the side image. It widens the stereo image drastically anyway. With regards to the stereo image and it being widened, that's kind of the main reason why that goes first. The second is the compression. And I've done this with flavor, and just for a little bit of control, just to kind of glue the vocals and the rest of the arrangement together. But the most drastic move that I made is the side image and increasing the side image gain. Now, if I put this to Unity, and I'm going to switch between before and after, currently set before, and then it'll go to after, and you'll hear again, it'll widen, and just the side image brings up this lift for the track where all the energy, all the mid-range all the swells of the reverb and especially the cymbals suddenly come to life a little bit more. And that is kind of what we wanted. We recorded only one guitar. So we panned hard left and hard right on some BT 301s from JZ mics. And it's still not stereo. I've done some clever things with the reverb to stereoize it, and I'll link a blog post below that I've also written on that topic. But because it's still a mono sound, we needed to try and get as wide as we could without that and not accentuate the drums too much. So there's a problem that we need to solve there, and this is it. So this is before and then after.
I always know it's not the truth. I heard them say.
You hear it just becomes a little bit more constrained, very center focused, and I wanted to take that away. So we did that. We used a little bit of transformer changes as well. We've got iron on the sides, we've got steel on the mid-range and the monofocus, just so it kind of on that kick drum, that really boomy sound. And lastly, the last topic I wanted to touch on is clipping. Now, this is Kazrog K-Clip 3. Try and say that drunk. It's not easy. I'm not using my usual on this. I'd usually use this crisp setting here. But essentially, clipping is adding distortion to your track to smooth it out and cut off the top of the transients. So adding distortion to acoustic guitars is just going to kind of ruin that glossy, glassy, shimmery, shiny vibe, any adjectives you want to make it sound pretty. So I'm going by Unity gain here, 3.1 dB minus 3.1 dB, and then I'm using the threshold mainly to just bring this down to a point where I'm happy. 4 dB is about the most I'll ever clip. I won't go any higher than that, and with the smooth function, it's almost like doing 2 dB or less on the crisp setting for this plugin. So this is with and without, and you'll hear, I don't know if you'll hear too much, it's a very subtle thing, but you might hear some ducking because of the maximizer, and it's having to work harder because I've got more pokey transients because I'm not clipping off the top of them. So this is before and then after.
I always know it's not the truth. I heard them say.
You can see just here, and then as it goes on, it's all very, very Unity. It's kind of almost, I like to think of it as a version of using a LA2A leveling compressor, but I'm not compressing, I'm clipping, but I'm leveling out the entire audio spectrum with regards to its peaks. So they're very similar. I guess the closest you'll probably put this to is like if you really push effect compressor, but you don't get that snap. So it's just shaving off the transients essentially. And yeah, I guess the last thing I'll touch on that I didn't write about is the maximizer. You get different algorithms here. You have dithering, which is an entirely different topic, but this is the last part of the chain where true peak, I have this engaged here. Ceiling really should be at about 0.3 so that I don't get that any sort of clipping when it gets upon the streaming services or someone puts it on in a car. And yeah, you just set the threshold, the lower the threshold, the louder the track gets. That's essentially it. So I'll do a topic on maximizers at one point. It's very in-depth, but for now, that is essentially the need to know. But yeah, so that is my main tips on mastering explained. I'll link the blog post below. I'll link to recording acoustic tracks below as well. And in the meantime, until the next video, stay creative.